So, by way of recap, last time you met with the Queen a little bit, you met with some of her followers in the city, and then you met with Lord Bellevant, and you arranged between all three parties at least a tentative willingness to meet and to discuss the possibility of peace. Do you want to give me a rundown of the quick interaction? If we want to do it in character, we can, but the invitation that you provide to each of the three parties for the specific place and terms of the meeting. How would you guys approach that? You can drive that, or I can drive
I
that.
mean, weren't we gonna, doesn't Talistan have a face? Yes.
So, how would you go about issuing the, I don't know if I'd say the invitation or the summons to the three parties?
Um,
Well, do we even
well,
have a way of contacting the queen?
it probably would have worked better. I don't know if we would have just decided on that in the first place, which we should have. But Maleth could tell Pietro, I could tell the Queen, and Bellevant's right here. I could let him know.
Okay, so who's contacting the Queen? I believe there were some people who stayed behind that could also talk with her. Or
Okay.
did everybody come with to Bellevant? I can't remember.
I don't think so. I think only Hestia and Prince came with me.
I thought I went as well.
Oh, okay.
I think only Malith and Jasper stayed back.
Okay, so Malith, how would you go about, or yeah, Malith, how would you go about inviting Pietro?
Um, hmm. I'm not with him at the moment, right?
We can say you're able to approach him.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say if I wasn't with him, I would just send a message. But if I was, um, I'd just ask him to.
You have details on the meeting, daughter.
Yes. Are you still willing to go?
Yes. Though I require, as I said before, assurances of your assistance should the other parties prove unenthused of my presence.
Malith will nod. Yes, my comrades and I intend to ensure that all parties agree to their ends of the bargain.
And if violence breaks out,
Well, we will move against whoever acted in bad faith.
can you make either a diplomacy or a bluff check for me?
Okay.
As would be appropriate.
Okay. Oh, are you freaking kidding me?
Oh,
He looks at you, Malith, and says, I understand there is a rare tool that your party came in contact with. Runite. I know little of it, but I know that it is powerful in the hands of a magic user. If I am to trust that the playing field is going to be even should things turn sour. I would have some of this runite in my possession.
I will speak to my comrades about this.
Provide me a portion, and I will be willing to meet. Both myself and one of my companions will join me.
I will speak to my companions then.
He nods.
Well, I would return to the rest of the party and be like, so we have a minor problem. I'm sorry if y'all can hear Miss Rachel through my mic.
You're good. So, for the sake of right now, assume between scrying and the message spell that you all can carry on a well enough straight conversation between each other.
Okay, well, I would tell the others. Pietro knows we had contact with Runite, and because of its power and ability to tip the scales, he is now refusing to meet unless he has a portion of it.
Tell him that it isn't ours to give. We're not holding on to it.
Yes, well, he know we had it at some point, so he knows if we don't have it now, then we already gave it to the queen.
Right.
Tell him that we
Those
gave
were
it to the
different
queen
concepts.
in order to arrange the meet. She would only meet if we gave her the runite.
Yes, and I guess there's no way we could
I
get the
will
party
say,
together.
we probably should think of something just because if I were Pietro and I were being invited to a meeting with a queen that has Ruinite and Bellevant, both of which wanted to kill him, and this stops the army from coming to Bellevant's door, I mean, it's rather, it's a bit suspicious.
It is. That's why I don't really want to tell him that we gave the queen all of the Ruinite, because that kind of subverts our entire stated goal of this piece.
Could we take
So-
the runite? Could we take the runite back away from the queen?
I was just about to suggest that, or either lying. I think we have two choices, and those are the options.
That would be, at a time like this, taking it back from her when everything is so delicate. I don't know if that is a good idea.
Yeah, but here's the issue. Um, Pietro has very little reason to cooperate with this plan in the first place because if all the humans die, okay, he wins.
Yeah.
Maybe he dies in the process, but his vision at least comes true. So the problem here is we're inviting him to a meeting that he doesn't really need to do that has a lot of things.
And that we barely convinced him to do in the first place. He has the least motivation to work with us among any of them, and the most reason to be suspicious.
And
Pietro
unfortunately,
is conveniently ignoring one very important fact. One, I don't think that we would be eager to allow the Runite in the meeting. He simply wants to give himself more of an advantage for an inevitable conflict, whether it occurs 20 years from now or less than that. The other thing he's forgetting is that we would need a means of defeating the dragon, and obviously we have such a small chance as it is. We would need the runite. The runite would potentially lose its luster or magical property after such a conflict with the dragon. Pietro would probably end up on top in terms of having an advantage anyway. To give him a portion of the runite to not use in the conflict with the dragon, but to have as additional power post conflict, it's absurd. He is
I
already
agree.
at an incredible advantage. He knows that.
Well, in light of this, here's what I propose. I think we should use the justification that we need the Ruinite against the dragon to to try to talk the queen into giving it back to us, because I do think you're right that we do need it. And then if we have it specifically for that purpose, we can't be any longer accused of using it to tip the scales in one of the three parties' favor.
I think that's a good plan. I don't think that we should give any to Pietro, but I also think that having the queen having it is a liability for everyone.
I agree. I mean, if I was even Bellevant, I wouldn't particularly want to work with a bunch of people who had already given her that sort of advantage, or with her knowing she has that advantage.
And to be
Uh,
honest, I was kind of against, not against. I was lukewarm about the queen having it in the first place.
Me
But
too.
They
I
really
think we
didn't
all
have
were.
much of a choice.
Yeah, none of us were thrilled with it, and I think we've all become less thrilled with it since she's had it. But at this point, it's an active detriment, and it should be utilized against the dragon instead of for these political schemes. Is everyone still there, or am I still connected?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we're here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just
So,
letting you guys decide amongst yourselves and not butting in.
so we should talk to the queen, see if we can get the Runite back from her. And once we do, I will tell Pietro that we need the Ruinite for the dragon, but we can at least assure that it won't be used against him at the meeting.
Or present at the meeting, I think would be a
Yes.
better guarantee. It makes sense for, despite these being peace meetings, I don't think that anybody would be willing to attend if they were truly perfectly unarmed. I think that some tolerance for weaponry, whether it's Bellevant's sword or the Queen's staff, Pietro's fangs, I think that there needs to be some minor allowance of arms to this gathering.
The queen needs to be watched the most carefully.
Yes.
In my opinion, I think she's the most likely to break the peace in this meeting,
I agree, and that's why
even
I
more so than
also
Pietro.
think we need to get the Ruinite from her, if nothing else, as a sign of good faith.
With the Queen and Vocalian's magical prowess, I'm not necessarily opposed to them having Runite and utilizing it in the conflict against the dragon, but at least for now,
Not in the meeting.
not in the meeting, and even being temporary stewards of that Runite. If we can persuade the Queen to do that and still cooperate, I see wisdom in that.
Yes.
Assuming things don't go as planned, though, which I honestly doubt they will, and it comes to blows, what are we going to do? I'd rather not decide this in the moment.
I agree.
well, the problem with deciding what we're going to do beforehand is the cause is important. For example, if the queen loses her shit and suddenly starts a battle with Pietro, do we just take her side if we decide beforehand that she's the one we want to
So,
follow?
here's my thought is that at least before we defeat the dragon, I think we should be prepared to move against whoever breaks the peace first. After the dragon is defeated, I think that's a different story, but if our goal is united peace against the dragon, then I think we should be prepared to go against whoever would violate that.
And we
So
should
we would
probably,
stand as arbitrators in the room then,
yes, and
promising
Yes.
to each individual that we will move against the instigator if there is one in the meeting.
Yes, if we're being honest, that's already what I've said to Pietro to assure him. I should have talked to y'all first about that, but I kind of just thought y'all might be on the same page given our end goals.
unfortunately, we have already told the queen, well, in so many words. We didn't tell her in writing or in very firm terms that we would back her if things went south. And I think at the time, what we meant by that was that ultimately we are on her side. But the problem is that,
If she's the instigator, is the problem.
yes. And it very well may be her because honestly, she's the one I'm most concerned with. If Pietro is going to do anything, he's already planned to do it. Bellevant doesn't seem like he's going to, but again, if he had planned to do it, he's already planned to do it. The queen is the only one here that I think might decide in the moment that she wants to throw, flip the table, so to speak.
Unfortunately, I think you may be right, which is not something I ever envisioned myself saying before we got to this point. Like, if you had told me when we first came to Zelkir that the queen would be the party I was most suspicious of subverting our plans, I would not have believed anyone.
Honestly, I had gotten that vibe from her the very first moment I met her and heard about her. She seems like someone whose emotions are very much wrapped in a lot of pretense about her nobility and the people and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She's seems
I mean,
like
you have
the
to
one
understand where she's coming from. I mean, she had her entire kingdom stolen from her, the throne taken.
Yeah, that may be true, but I think every leader needs to at least go into leadership with the expectation that they won't take things personally. I mean, when
If
political
somebody
things
usurped
happen,
your throne and destroyed your kingdom, you wouldn't take that a little personally?
I probably would, but that's why I would, or at least from my perspective, I would understand that such things are expected, and even though I do have emotions about it, I should be ready to defend the country against my own pre-assumptions and emotions and whims. It I understand emotion. I just by understanding it, it doesn't mean you can transcend it, but you can at least prepare for it. And it doesn't seem like she was prepared for any of this. Or at least that's what it seems like after meeting her. I don't know what she was like when she was actually leading,
I
but
mean, how do you even prepare for something like this?
I feel like every group of people or nation has some contingency for their
Right,
throne being
I'm
usurped.
sure that she did too, but I don't know. If I was king, I wouldn't exactly count on the machinations of an immortal dragon that is going to suddenly come alive and usurp the entire continent from all of the living creatures. That's kind of a hard thing to plan for, don't you think?
I mean,
Undead appearing from nowhere.
I would agree that that specific instance is hard to prepare for, but preparing for instability is not. Preparing for loss of power is not. I think if I were a king, I would at least have a series of contingencies available for my eventual death or for the eventual revolution or the eventual bad thing that happens.
Well, we don't know if she did or not.
Maybe she
Anyway,
did.
we need to focus on what we're doing now. What our plan is if things go south at the meeting, if it depends on who instigates, how to potentially get the Ruinite, how to convince all parties to play nice in the meantime, so on and so forth.
I think it's important that if we told the queen that we support her rule, that we support her if things go south, that we maintain that honesty. But it's with that small clarification of, when it comes to this meeting and temporary peace that we're trying to establish, right? That we would side, or rather, we would try to stop the instigator, right? I would hope that we don't have to have a complete fight, a physical, magical, whatever conflict in the middle of this meeting. Hopefully, if somebody starts getting, beyond just raising their voice, that we can, cease that, apprehend them if needed, and then accept that the meeting cannot continue and go with the next best plan afterwards. But I would hope that we are competent enough that we would prevent the violence from actually happening in the first place in that meeting.
I will have my eye on everyone as much as possible, but I can't guarantee anything, of course.
Where is this place you plan to take them? Is it designed in such a way that we could prevent maybe outside instigation from coming? Each of these people have their own respective followers and armies and such, and I can't imagine that. Yeah, we may be able to stop one person or a small group of people, but if one of them plans to bring their army and the other ones don't, there is little that we could do on the spot.
Well, it is a fort. It certainly can't hold off an army, but it is a defensible building for sure.
Well, maybe one solution to this problem is instead of telling everyone the location in which we're gathering, maybe we can tell them a intermediary position and then teleport everyone to the location we want the actual discussion to take place.
That sounds like a great idea. We should do that.
All right. That way we know that we are only dealing with Bellevent, we are only dealing with the Queen, and we are only dealing with Pietro.
Didn't Pietro say he needs a goon to come with him?
That's what he says. I don't think that that is the best idea.
Well, maybe everyone should have an advisor with them. That might not be the worst idea to bring one person for each.
That does make it better.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that if we do get this Ruinite, we find a secure location for it that's not this place. I don't know what we can do with it. It's a wild card no matter what we do. Any suggestions for what to do with it in the meantime? We can get it back. Yes, if we can get it from the Queen.
Maleth or Jasper should use it against the dragon.
How big, out of character, I guess I would know this. How big is the Ruinite? Is it something that someone can pocket?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the stones of Runite are small enough that you could fit one in the palm of your hand. Each one is.
Okay. So we'll just have someone hold on to it. Does anyone have a secure bag?
I do not.
I got a bag of holding.
Well, who's the best at not being stolen from? Maybe that's the best question to ask.
If we're talking like CMB steel, then that's definitely me.
Would you notice somebody?
Perception? No. I mean, my perception is average. Like, an accomplished rogue could probably steal from me and get away with it.
I think I have a pretty high perception rate.
I have a decent perception, but not like an impossible to steal from one.
You know what? Just don't. Okay, I mean, we can stick together. We can just look out for each other. It's going to be difficult for somebody to sneak up on all of us at the same time.
Okay.
That's agreed. So, now it's just to see if we can get the Ruinite back from the Queen.
Well, who's in the best position to talk to the Queen about it? Who here
Definitely
feels
not me.
Not me either.
Maybe Gabriel. I mean, hasn't he talked about being on her good side before?
She got a little upset at me last time.
Calistan?
Well, maybe Calistan's brother. Calistan's brother would probably be in the best position.
Yeah.
Out of character, maybe you can role play as your brother. I don't know. That's
Right,
up to
I'll play as
Taggart.
Shaw.
That's up to Taggart. But your brother seems to be working for the queen, and he was the one that convinced her to stop attacking Pietro just from a single utterance. So if he's that trusted, then he probably is the best person to do this.
Well, he doesn't have like the knowledge though that we have.
Well, he's your brother. You can tell
And he's
him.
still very upset about all of this.
Well, people need to understand that facts don't necessarily care about their feelings.
Well, I don't think we can teach them that lesson quickly enough before everything has a chance to transpire. But I do agree, Prince.
Well, he's in the best position. If he can't do it, then it's either, in my estimation, either Jasper, Gabriel, or Calistan. Or Hestia. I don't know. Hestia, how did you feel about your interactions with the Queen recently?
I don't really like her.
But does she like you?
So. Not really.
Well, I don't know. You guys pick. I'm.
Jasper, are you still on good
If we
terms with the
retconned a
queen?
lot of what I said because I kind of forgot what was happening, she might like.
Sorry, Hestia. What were you saying? Anyway,
If we what was happening before.
Sorry, you were cutting out, Erica.
If we retconned what happened before, because honestly I forgot what was going on a bit. She might like me, but if we don't, then no, she doesn't, because I was not saying very nice things.
That which happened has happened.
Okay.
So she does not like Hestia. Okay. Well, I don't think she likes me. She gave me a grimace last time I saw her.
She
I don't
probably
think she
likes Gabriel the best because Gabriel was kissing her boots pretty much the whole time.
Sorry, that can be an in character.
There was a T there, just so you know.
I know, that was rude.
I can talk to her again.
Maybe you and Gabriel should go together. And maybe Gabriel can back you up.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, and just to recap, we need to get the Ruinite from her. Convince her that it just needs to be used against the dragon.
Okay.
Okay, but see, I will do my best, don't get me wrong, but I really do not think she is going to follow through with this. Especially because we just ruined her plans to kill Pietro and significantly turn the tide for herself, but now she has to give up her only ace in the hole.
I can turn her into a worm.
If things don't pan out for her, she absolutely loses. She is finished after this.
I think that's true of everyone involved.
And she has to know that.
Yeah, okay, so
I could
we
turn her
should
into
go.
a worm and turn her back from a worm
We
right when we have the meeting.
So okay, in light of what Calliston has said, and I'm sorry to make so many contingencies, but I just thought, what
No,
if
this
she
is
doesn't
good. We need to plan this out. This isn't
what
something we
if
should do lightly.
what if she refuses? And if she does refuse because maybe we're not convincing enough, what is our alternative? And I'm just gonna put this out there, nobody chew my head off. I think, probably need to come to terms with any of these three people being killed by us. And I know that sounds dramatic, and I normally would never suggest such a thing, but I'm just thinking of the possible contingencies if she does not cooperate. What are we willing to do to bring peace to Zelkir? What are we willing to do? And I think we really need to have this discussion because I know there are quite a few people here who really love the Queen. I don't understand it necessarily,
I
but
believe Gabriel's the one that loves the Queen. Most of
I
us are either
honestly
indifferent or we dislike her.
I'm perhaps better than indifference. I'm not Gabriel's love, but
yes.
I think
So,
she's at least fair.
well, so if it comes to the point, and maybe we need to decide if this is something we need to do, but if it comes to the point where someone has to act against the Queen, one of us, is it going to create a major conflict? Is someone going to pick up arms against their fellow friends if the Queen needs to be put in an unfortunate position?
Well, first and foremost, I am in support of all of you above anyone else. And I believe that we have the best interests of this continent at heart. We are the most politically removed from everything, so
I'll be honest, I don't care about the continent. I do care about the people. And if that means getting them out of the continent, I'm willing to do that as well. But continue.
I mean, that's just about it. I'll do it to protect all of you above anyone else that might be at the meeting.
And I can agree to that as well.
Yes, my priority is us, and then also the people of Zelkir. In my mind, that means before we beat the dragon, I'm willing to move against anyone who might compromise that goal, be it the Queen or someone else. I can't imagine moving against her once the dragon is defeated, but as I mentioned before, she's the one that compromises the goal before then I'm fine with whatever. Just because I think that beating the dragon here is in both our best interests and the interests of the people of Zelkir.
It's in the interest of the entire world. I want to touch on something that Calistan briefly mentioned, but give an alternative future than what he described. These necromantic energies, they corrupt over time. Yes. And that could, like Calistan mentioned, lead to this dragon no longer just caring for Zelkir, but perhaps, it needs to control everything around Zelkir and then eventually the entire world. But let me propose an alternate solution. Or an alternate future. Let's just suppose that its care and value for Zelkir doesn't change, right? Well, first he'll quickly find out that despite Zelkir having borders, there are all these mortal realms, these mortal kingdoms that are concerned that there is suddenly a independent nation of undead in their vicinity. Now they may have interest in taking up arms. Well, there will be conflict coming from without into the land of Zelkir, and that will surely require action on Zelakar's part. The other concern is that the intelligent undead surely will have an interest in being involved in geopolitical activities outside of Zelkir. So, just right there, the very people that Zelakar has manipulated into being here, Pietro and the like, they will be making moves that basically bring Zelkir into the rest of the world in one way or another, and Zelakar's interests would then be, his eye will be on those activities, and that will potentially cause him to act in some way. The idea is that either way, it's a matter of when, not if, Zelakar decides to make a move against people outside of Zelkir. This
Yeah,
meeting is not about achieving a lasting peace. we can't be subservient, or not even us. The people here can't just be subservient to a dragon and make sure that they're abiding by his principles of peace. No, if we don't do something about Zelkir or Zelakar, he will act against the outside world.
But I agree with you, but I don't think this is an argument you need to make towards us. I think this is an argument you need to make towards the people at the gathering. This is exactly the sort of information that I think you need to present to them.
I will
Okay.
gladly present that even more eloquently. I will practice to make sure that it is laid out clearly before them. And hopefully, Bellavant, who is showing, oddly enough, signs that he would just opt out of the conflict and out of Zelkir entirely, hopefully he can be persuaded to do potentially one last heroic act.
Well, the question then becomes, what's our prospects of being able to kill this dragon? I mean,
I think we need everybody. And if we don't have everybody, I think that we take the people that we care about, the denizens of Zelkir, and we make an exodus out of here.
Well,
with the limited time we have left.
Okay. So, then this is what I would propose. My original plan from the moment that Zelakar said what he said was that we could create a peace by uniting against the dragon himself. This would meet his qualifications well enough and also serve to maybe help us defeat him. Now, I know it's a bit of a catch-22, but he might even see the irony in it. I don't know. He is an old being, so maybe he will. But in either case, I think that convincing them to have a peace, at least tentatively, against the dragon would be great, even if we are unable to defeat him. So, I think that's a very good plan. I think it's a very good line of argumentation.
I think that imagining that kind of reaction from Zelakar is too much of wishful thinking.
I don't know. I got
He's
the
very
impression.
possessive of this land.
Yeah, he is. But sometimes possession is weird. I have seen beings of immense power care more about the objects of their obsession and possession than they do about themselves. I'm not saying that he's just going to, fold, but a being of his power who's lived as long as he may see some irony in the fact that peace may be maintained in his opposition. I mean, I don't think he's completely unreasonable, even as an undead. And I understand your point that over time he will become more potent and more violent, but this at least gives us a chance to build up the force to defeat him.
Well, all right, answer this. Should Zelakar have that reaction, what becomes of him?
I mean, I think that all depends on whether or not there's enough force to actually defeat him. I don't even know how to locate him. Honestly, we could go back to that place in which we have found him, but he seems... The practicalities of fighting a dragon of this sort, this is his home turf. I don't know much about it. We barely found him to begin with. So I don't know what happens to the dragon. I have no clue what's going to happen to this dragon. The thing I'm focusing on is the hearts and minds of the people who live here. I don't know what to do with the dragon. That's the short answer. I have no idea what to do with the dragon.
Anybody else have thoughts?
I mean, we can look at the logistics of things when we're done. We'll see what can be committed, from the Queen, from Pietro, if anything. If it is just us, though, we certainly will need that runite one way or another.
So the first thing is we confront the queen. If she says no, what do we do? That's what I was asking a couple of minutes ago. What do we do if the queen says no?
Kill her.
She at least needs to not bring it to the meeting. And we would have to, I imagine, explain to Pietro the circumstances around giving the queen the runite.
Well, how do we prevent her from bringing it to the meeting besides we need a neutral location from which we can teleport to, and maybe we can frisk her or something before we go to the meeting. She seems a bit prideful for that to happen, but if someone would like to take the risk of frisking the queen, I commend them. But
Gabriel would love to, I'm sure.
Okay.
I say that in jest, Gabriel. I say that in jest.
I am laughing in character because this is getting funny. What did you say to the queen, Gabriel?
I basically took a bullet for her.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that would be enough to warrant all of this jesting, but in any case, so we frisked the queen for the Ruinite, and we somehow explained to Pietro that she's just going to have it, and he willingly comes along in good faith to this discussion. I mean, a lot of this
We
seems
definitely can't tell her that we're giving it to Pietro. That would be
Well, I wasn't
so
planning on
incredibly
giving it to him.
egregious. She would laugh.
I wasn't planning on giving it to Pietro, but I just fine. Let's see how it goes. I think someone
Well,
needs
maybe
to
it would be better to even talk about what, if anything, they would want to commit to this before we even get to that table to see if it's even going to be meaningful enough to warrant going through all of this trouble, moving the Ruinite around and all of that,
Well, I can tell you,
giving resources away to people.
Bellavant seems like he's ready to put everything on the table. That's the vibe I got from him right off. I'm so glad we don't have to worry about Bellavant. Pietro is reluctant, and I think that he won't commit anything unless the Ruinite is accounted for. Not necessarily given to him, but at least in neutral hands. The Queen, we should just talk to her. We need to talk to the Queen.
No, we have an issue with Bellavant as well. He said that he would rather just leave. He doesn't want to martyr for this country. He would rather get his people out if he can.
Well, he said he cares about the safety of his people, and that might include leaving. But if we could convince him that his people, alongside everyone else, could take down the dragon, he seems like a person who would be willing to take the risk if it were a viable one. We need to figure out if it is a viable one and then go on from there. And if we don't think it's viable, then we need to have some other plan. But this is again up to what you guys think. I'm skeptical that we can kill the dragon even with the help of everyone. And I think Bellavant is as well. If anyone else has more faith than I do, they should definitely speak.
I have faith that we could bring it down with the Ruinite.
Then you should leave with that.
I think that if after that encounter with the All Fool,
he just said that.
Well, I mean, if we go word for word, he said that we'd be fools to, and then explained what we could do. I think, if anything, that is a jesting way of encouraging us to do. That it is a way of possibly bringing down the dragon.
I do think we would be fools not to try.
All right, well, I think we should get on with having this discussion with the queen. It seems like everything hinges on what she says.
Not necessarily. I think that Pietro is trying to push his luck. He's in a position of such great advantage, and I believe will be after the conflict with the dragon, should everyone cooperate. I don't see a need, and I believe that he doesn't see a true need outside of just being massively over benefited in the post conflict to have the rune.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have no desire to give Pietro the Ruinite. But I also don't think he's going to come to the table if the queen has it.
I imagine he will if we remind him what's at stake to his rule.
Okay, well, maybe you should be the one to try to convince him.
Pietro?
You and Malith can try to convince him. Because she's
All right.
currently. All right, so maybe that should be the first thing, and then we can talk to the queen.
Good. And I suppose we're the best ones anyway because we're the ones that are here with him. So
Alrighty, so we're going to talk to Pietro first or Queen first? Pietro?
I think it's fair to talk to Pietro first, explain to him the situation that would prevent this from being shared, this runite from being shared with, but that we can guarantee it not being present.
Okay. We should probably wait for Kayla. I'll go get, how about this? I'll go get the baby. That's what I'll do. I'll go get the baby.
It's good that we're doing this too.
Oh yeah, no, I think
Trying
it's
to
good.
prevent Pietro from getting an upper hand because
Yeah.
if we go to the queen and say, okay, well, he needs some of the Ruinite or we need some of the Ruinite with you, then the queen's going to ask for something. Then we're going to be going back and forth. And before our time limit is up, we're just going to be running back and forth, running errands for everybody. And no side will be satisfied whatsoever. So, I mean, no pressure, Jasper, but it does need to end here. There can be no renegotiating.
I agree.
I think we could even just say, you're welcome to not be there, Pietro, but you're gonna be doing yourself. Even if it comes to that. Same with the queen.
I don't
Well-
think they're all going to work together. I really don't. It
Well,
would be nice at least to see who would be willing to work with us and what resources we could get from them.
We do need an ultimatum for Pietro. I after hearing what you guys just said, I feel like at the end of the day, Pietro does need to know that if this doesn't work out, that Bellevent and the Queen are probably going to go nuclear, even if it damns them. So, like, yeah, the dragon may kill the Queen and Bellevent if they kill Pietro and don't come to some sort of peace. But at least that would mean that Pietro needs to have some sort of stakes in this. And that's the only thing I can think of is that either the dragon eventually will get tired of him or the Queen and Bellevent will move against him very quickly if he does not agree. Those are the only things I can think of that Pietro would even care about.
I mean, we still do have that in our pocket. We can't just threaten him. Worst case scenario.
Cooperate or die.
Better than
That would
nothing.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think that we even need to threaten him per se, as much as I feel an eagerness to defeat Zelakar. If our chances are greater taking whoever we can out of Zelkir and addressing this threat at a future point, and maybe it's not even something that we can do, but our children, well, your children, then so be it. We are merely giving Pietro the chance to have a lasting rule in Zelkir, because the way that Zelakar wants things to be, Pietro won't have a lasting rule, and he needs to be more cognizant of that fact.
Well, that's the point. The point is, so here's the problem. If we defeat Zelakar, what is Pietro's outlook? Does he think he can defeat the combined forces of the Queen and Bellavant?
He has
Does he
so
think-
far.
Does he think he will be able to rule afterwards? What is everyone's end game? After, like, for Pietro, the best, from his perspective, I think the best option would be to just let the dragon wipe out the living. I
It
mean,
wouldn't be, because the dragon's future cannot have someone like Pietro in it.
okay, that may be true, but what happens after we kill the dragon? Does everyone just
Right.
move against him? So like he's in this situation where it's like, yeah, the long-term consequences aren't good for him, but the short-term consequences, the best short-term consequences for him are in league with the dragon. We need him to know that there is something at the end of the tunnel, in some direction. And so far, to me, what it looks like is it doesn't seem like there's any real long-term benefit for Pietro to agree. So why not just go down swinging? And the best way to go down swinging is to just disagree with the piece.
I think you contradicted yourself, and I'll explain. What we're telling Pietro is that his only chance at long-term success is with this temporary alliance. There's a lot of potential for the short term to go very poorly for him. And that would be what's tempting, to not negotiate this peace, to not cooperate, right? There is no possible future with the dragon where there's a long-term future.
Yeah, but I think you're underestimating his ego. Like, the thing about ego, from my understanding, is that it is more likely to overestimate one's own ability to make short-term consequences well. So, for example, if you tell him that the long-term prospects are not great because of the dragon, and that he needs to cooperate, and then also sees that the long-term prospects, if he cooperates, are also not good because the Bellavant and Queen are still here, and both of them are very much against having a Zelkir ruled by the undead. So he's in this position to be like, okay, well, I'm going to rely on my own strength. You guys think that this dragon is going to be whatever. You deal with him, you die, and I will take my chances. That's how ego works in my estimation. I don't think he's going to be as entirely rational about this as you suspect.
I think he's going to care for his survival. And as things stand, the Queen has the means of nuking him. And what we're trying to negotiate is for him to not be nuked.
Maybe. I have a sneaky suspicion that someone like him, when he's pushed into a corner of lose-lose, he'll just blow up everything and take his chances. Because I know that that's
saying the same thing about the Queen.
Yes, I think they're very similar in this. They both seem to be heavily invested in their own personal efficacy, as one would say. The only leader here, to me, that seems to actually care about his people and not his own ego is Bellavant, but I don't know him very much either. But yes, I see Pietro and the Queen as not being that dissimilar from each other. But
Well,
we
like
could
like
take a
we're like
game
we're
that-
all basically saying, well, we have different evaluations of each individual. I mean, I personally see Pietro as the most predictable, the one that we can estimate and rely on a certain kind of reaction more so than the others.
Sure, I just want to incentivize him more than just saying that you're doomed or you're gonna fail regardless, and you have three options. Most of them are no win, but one of them relies on your own might. And I think that he will rely on his own might because that's what an egoist would do. And that's what I'm trying to say is if you
Right.
give him three options, all of them bad, one of them relies on himself and his own estimation of his abilities, and the other two rely on agreeing and cooperating with other people, he's going to choose to rely on his own might. And that is the worst option for us. So that's why I'm saying we need to incentivize this for Pietro. And currently, I don't think he's incentivized enough. But I can't think of anything we can give him besides the Ruinite. And that seems like also a bad plan. But all of our options seem really bad. The best option that keeps coming to my mind is just to kill everyone but Belafit and see what happens.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
That
I-
wouldn't result in Zelikar seems pretty like I imagine, especially now with him being undead, that lasting peace would have to include his new denizens that he's brought in.
Exactly, which is why we're going to have to incentivize Pietro. And if we can't come up with anything besides Ruinite, that seems like our only choice. Because I do not see him. I just don't see him agreeing without it. Or at least it being removed completely. So at some point or another, the queen needs to stop having the Ruinite. But that's just my opinion.
I do have a request, and this is really the last thing that I have to say on the matter. I imagine that the individual Pietro brings, that the companion would be Emmeline Tempest. If combat does ensue, please refrain from harming her greatly.
I am actually surprised to hear you say that. Unless, like, I assumed you were going to say you wanted to harm her, given what you've said about her.
Prince,
I know.
I gave Pietro the thing that we had talked about, the thing that protects me from him.
Is that ring? I have
Not the
been
ring. Not the ring. I already gave him the ring. We can talk about this more later.
Okay.
But at present, I have diplomatic immunity in the territories occupied by Pietro and his forces. And I have the chance, not necessarily now, soon, to work things out with Emmeline Tempest, and I would like for that chance to remain so.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to say something to Pietro, and we're going to have to say something to the queen. I just gave my opinions. I think it's ultimately up to you guys, because to me, Zelkir seems like a political mess that is best to be left behind. So, if you all would like to see Zelkir a better place with its people in it,
We've gone over this. We can't leave it behind. You
Of
know that we
course.
can't leave it behind.
I know you can't. That's why I'm saying we need to figure out what to say to Pietro, and I'm saying it's up to you. Also out of character, I'm wrestling with a baby right now, so he is rambunctious and trying to grab everything on the desk and also tackling me. So yeah.
Do you all agree that at least it would be best to go back to Pietro and have this discussion with him about the Runite first before
Yes.
reconvening with the Queen?
Yes.
All right.
Worst case, let him know that his demands are ridiculous. And that if he tries to tip the scales, then Bellivant or the Queen is going to tip them back, and it's going to be an endless cycle.
Yes, we're willing to come up with something that keeps him safe from the Runite. We can't deliver any of it into his hands.
And we need to find a way to convince the Queen to at least give the presumption that she doesn't have it anymore.
Or maybe just take it back from her and tell her it's a bad idea.
I mean, I'm for that, but I'm a bit hesitant that everyone else is.
I mean, that's our nuclear option.
Okay, so it is an option. Okay, good. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so who's approaching who?
Maleth and I will approach Pietro.
Calston and I are going to the Queen.
Okay. All right, who's first? Queen or Pietro?
Pietro.
Pietro.
Okay.
Question: when I was gone, did anyone talk to the Queen, or is that
No.
what still needs to happen?
That's what's about to happen. But first,
So we don't actually know that there's any success in getting the Ruinate back from her?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
so Jasper and Maleth, as you approach Pietro, he looks at you. You've brought what I requested. Your silence tells me much.
Well, after discussing it among each other, we realized very quickly that the Ruinite will be critical in the battle against the dragon. But we are also in agreement that it should not be used among any party against the other before the dragon is defeated.
And if anything, given the magical prowess of the dragon, the Runite would be completely inert after using it to that extent. You already have a great advantage against the Queen. And were she to lose any chance of securing this Runite because it's used in the fight against the dragon, as it should be, I don't see how she's a great threat to you. What I can see is that peace, even if only a temporary one, as all pieces have been in the history of time, I would see that peace would be more guaranteed. She had an opportunity to use it against you.
An
Made
opportunity
sure
that
didn't
you thwarted.
Exactly. If
And
anything, that should give you more reason to trust what we're trying to do here.
if I meet with you, I'm walking into what could very well be a trap.
I believe that's what everyone is thinking about each other right now.
And
But
so what
understand
do you
this.
offer now from me to assuage my concerns of my safety? I have a kingdom to think of, a rule to secure. What stops you, your companions, the Queen, and Bellevant from striking me down the moment that I'm vulnerable?
What stops me, and the only reason why I'm standing peacefully here and offered the finger of someone who is dear to you. I know not who, but the reason I do all of this is because there is much at stake for me, and there is much at stake for the people of this land. I have the burden of a dead kingdom, not even undead, of a dead kingdom on my shoulders. I would rather there not be another one.
Go ahead and roll a diplomacy check.
All right. If only it would load. There we go. Oh, you got the -1!
Pietro studies you, Jasper, and he turns to see you, Maleth, and he says, "What interesting company you find yourself in. It's a pity that your mother never got to see you and what you've become. Though, perhaps she will."
Maleth is going to look a little surprised and confused by that and say, I would love to hear more on both those points.
I'm satisfied. I will meet. I will take, Jasper Bizzati, your fervor as assurance enough. If you are willing to break bread with me now, perhaps I can trust you at least this far.
It is difficult, but I am sincere, and I appreciate your trust in that. I and my companions, we will see to it that the agreements to this accord, or to this meeting and the accord thereafter, are met. And if not, we will do what is in our power to stop the instigator, defend who the instigator would harm. We will break apart this meeting peaceably if conflict were to arise. We understand that it's a possibility that not all parties will cooperate, and we've discussed how we will handle that, and have agreed with each other that we will stand against the instigator and stand with the one who has kept the accord.
Yes, I confirm this. We have all agreed to that.
And there's a great reason for this. Again, yes.
Save your talks. I will hear your case when we meet. It is enough, Pietro says. All right.
Have you chosen your companion?
He nods. Where do we go? So, out of character, are you guys intending still to talk to the Queen, or are you just going to have everyone come with their companion? Or how are you getting everyone to the secretly appointed place?
Could we talk to the queen still?
Do you want to?
I'm asking my
Oh,
companions.
sorry.
I thought we were going to tell her that she should not bring the Brunite. I can't hear anybody.
No one's talking. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if there's no strong feelings about it, do you guys want to just
I have a
go
thought, but
ahead.
since I wasn't part of the group that was going to talk to her, I didn't feel it right for me to comment. So,
Well, you're part of the group, so comment or forever hold your
well,
peace.
I still favor them talking to the queen, considering the concerns we had that involved talking to her to begin with.
Right. I think that Jasper Maleth would probably reconvene with the rest of the group via sending or whatever and explain that Pietro seems sincere and is very much in agreement, but would demand strict adherence to the terms of the meeting, which would be, not bringing the runite, or at least, the queen wouldn't be in possession of it, right? The non-violence, and also the terms that we would move against, any instigator of, violence, and defend those who are keeping the agreements, the peace of the meeting.
Then my connection is cutting in and out.
I mean, you sound like
Tell
you're
the
fine.
queen
Yeah.
that we don't want her to bring the Runite. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want her to bring the Runite. And
And then
she
we
could
make
bring
it
one
clear.
guard.
Yeah.
What else?
Then for the spot we should meet, we should just pick a spot that's going to be, I don't know, equidistant from everybody's current location, but then move to the actual location.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to? We can out of character the getting them to the place. Do you want to quickly discuss with the queen?
Sure.
Okay. You bring me news on the meeting, Gabriel.
We do, Your Majesty. The meeting is still on, but some regulations have been set for the meeting. Only one guard is permitted per representative for the meeting. Additionally, we were able to thwart other people's demands for the Runite, thus keeping you're able to keep it for yourself. However, it is requested that it is not present during that meeting, which I'm sure you would agree that it would be a security risk for yourself and the Runite were it to be present at that.
Go ahead and make a diplomacy check.
Oh, that was gonna be about to be so good.
She looks at you. Fine. Where do we meet?
Out of game, we didn't come up with the exact
Sure.
location.
No,
but
that's
I've
that's
been-
fine.
I will
We
mark it
can-
on her map.
Yeah, you can. We can assume that you make arrangements so that each of the three, with their chosen companion, meets, and everyone is teleported to the same location at Calliston's previous estate. So you find yourselves all together. The building itself is actually still in very good condition. It looks to have been well kept over the past months. There's no sign of destruction or death in the area. You pick the large meeting hall in the center where each of the parties can sit. Lord Bellevant is accompanied by a hooded figure who hasn't shown his face or anything, but stands idly behind Bellevant as Bellevant sits. Queen Elora brought with her Master Vocalion, and Pietro brought with her Emmeline Tempest. The hooded figure that Bellevant has with him you've never seen before, but other than that, all three parties came willingly, at least as well as you could tell. As you sit with them all before you, Lord Bellevant turns to you, Callistan, and says, I believe time is of the essence. I've just received word from... I received word shortly before coming that Pietro's army has ceased its march on Berwain. I take this as a sign of good faith on his part. I am hopeful that we can reach an agreement and possibly this peace that you desire to assuage the dragon.
Is my hope as well.
Pietro, as Bellevant says this, he smirks. Peace. You want peace. It's funny coming from you. Before I came here, I was aware of you and your ilk, and all that you've done. You may view me as someone with blood all over my hands, and yet I know the work of death that you have wrought, both within this land and without. No, I brought the opportunity for peace. A quick and painless death brought back to the glories of unlife. You all resisted. But nonetheless, we shall see what shall happen to my land now. And at that, Queen Elora snarls. Your land, Pietro? This place has no claim by you. You are an usurper. You claim this land only by force of arms, and yet you have no respect for what it is, no respect for what it has been. This is not your home, and it never will be, no matter how long you stay here. You do not belong here.
Thank you all so much for agreeing to meet. It means a great deal that everyone has a vested interest in Zelkir. I would like to, as I'm sure all of you are aware from what we've told you about the threat, what is it exactly that everyone can bring to the table?
What I can bring to the table, says Pietro. the might of Zelkir. The greatest army in these lands is mine. An army that you direly need the strength of if you wish to resist the dragon. A dragon that, truthfully, is more on my side than anything else.
He is on nobody's side, but if you wouldn't mind letting me know, and I will pull out quill and ink to put it to parchment, so we can detail the logistics of what we can bring against the dragon. I assume you have a number you can give me. Siege weaponry, your forces.
Pietro looks at you consideringly. 200,000 troops with several hundred spellcasters, as well as the entire arsenal of siege weaponry available in the capital. If you want exact numbers, and he tosses a glance towards the Queen, I'm sure that the Queen can tell you. I assure you, they were undamaged in our takeover.
We appreciate you being forthcoming with the details, as this not only assists with our plan, should we all be in agreement to act against the dragon, but I believe it is important to the greater conversation of what occurred between these parties here and their people and the land after the conflict.
Pietro smiles. I made my terms to you very clear before. I want, in writing, agreed upon with the seal of magic by all parties here. 20 years of peace. 2 decades with no action against me. With these terms, I will offer my aid against the dragon.
I wasn't here for about the past 25-ish seconds. The graphics card in my computer just died, and then everything just completely got destroyed from there. Last thing I heard was I can ask the Queen about the exact numbers, and then...
Yeah, Pietro was basically saying that the Queen would know the exact number of the siege equipment, that he didn't destroy any of it in the takeover. And I thank Pietro for his forthcomingness and explain that this is not only important knowing the logistics for our plan of attack against the dragon for all who should participate, but also in coordination what should happen between these leaders and their peoples and the lands afterwards. And that's when Pietro started making his comment preemptively, in my opinion, on his exact terms.
Bellavant speaks. And what land do you lay claim to, then? What land do you wish to have no aggression towards you? Pietro turns to Bellavant. That which I currently control. The capital and all lands from the west of it. Western Zelkir, as it stands now.
May I remind King Pietro that Maleth and I did agree that we would facilitate this kind of discussion and encourage having it. We couldn't guarantee your terms, but whether it is those exact terms or something similar, it's our hope to come to an agreement. I do not expect that all of the lands will be ceded to one party or the other. and I expect there to be a prolonged period of geopolitical peace between the parties involved. The exact numbers I couldn't say. That's for all of you to decide.
Bellavant speaks. I will agree to peace. Perhaps not 20 years, but at least 10 years of no aggression. I would be satisfied if that same offer of peace were extended to East Zelkir. If the land must be divided between the living and the dead, then perhaps that is how it shall be. So long as none are forced to stay and be made victim to the rule of Pietro. Pietro waves a hand at this. Of course, any who wish to leave may do so. I will not hold them against their will. But any who wish to stay, be they living or dead, they too must be allowed. And a sickly grin crosses his face as he says this.
Queen, you've been awfully silent.
You divvy up and parcel out my kingdom, and you stand here ready and willing to take the lives that have grown here and put them about like pawns. This is my kingdom. I will not cede this ground to Pietro. He can retreat. He can even have Eastern Zelkir, if he so desires. But the capital is mine. Western Zelkir is mine.
I am not enthusiastic about Pietro's rule, but it's not him that took Zelkir from you. It was Zelakar. Zelakar, in a way, has always ruled this land. It's always been his land, and he's been corrupted. His corruption will go so far that he will even inevitably turn against Pietro, who he's used as his own pawn in this great plan. All will be under his grasp, his control, the dragons, until he's made Zelkir a land of stasis. It would not be a land for the living, not for the intelligent undead. It would be the land for those who would dare not put Zelkir out of a piece of permanent equilibrium. Zelkir's is nobody's in this room so long as Zelakar is here. I am asking that we all fight together to lay a claim to a portion of this land that you want to call home, and to protect the world from what will inevitably be a great threat to them. Right today, Zelakar's concern is with Zelkir. That will change. will change in time. He will never find the peace that he wants so long as there are intelligent undead in this land. He will never find the lack of change, the complete stasis that he desires. And on the other hand, there will always be living, nations of living outside of Zelkir who are suddenly greatly concerned with what has become a nation, at least in part, of undeath. And they will attempt to rise against it. Zelkar's eyes will be turned against the rest of the world. He would bring about an apocalypse and wipe out anything that has mind or motives or soul of any kind, living or undead. He would wipe them all out until he finds that he has the rest and stewardship that he's longed for.
Go ahead and roll a diplomacy check. Or
Okay,
if you'd
so
like,
if
you
I
can.
if I want to do a hero, do I have to say that now?
If you want to do a hero point, you can roll first.
That is exactly a 15.
I mean, I think you know what your bonus is, so
Well, I mean, no, but I mean, it's
you want to.
after the.
I know.
Yeah. I want to do a hero point because I feel like even if I do the hero point, it's not going to automatically persuade everyone, make them in complete agreement.
As you say that, Bellevant speaks up. I had found myself ready up until now to take my people and leave, to withdraw from this fight and save what lives I could. But you make a compelling case, Jasper. If I do not fight this fight today, then perhaps it will be my children or my children's children who pay the price, far past my own expiration. I stand now as the ruler of the last standing city of the living Zelkir. And Berwain, led by myself, will stand with you against the dragon. I will accept Pietro's terms. As to Queen Elora, I know not what she will be satisfied with. She has always had a hard time letting go. But I see the wisdom in your words, in the need for a united front.
Thank you. It's only with a united front and without infighting between these disparate groups that we have a chance. Now, just because the two of you have agreed, I don't expect the negotiations to end here. I would urge us to find a solution that, if only somewhat, appeases Queen Elora. The greatest thing at stake is the lives. And that's what this combined effort is for.
The Queen speaks. I will not share my dominion with a usurper, nor will I do so with a traitor. I demand half of Zelkir to lead all living citizens. You've sworn to me, and she turns Calistan and Gabriel especially to you. You've sworn to me your support in the past. I expect you to stand now by your oaths, by the convictions that you gave me before when I promised you a seat on the council after all of this had ended. What do you have to offer me?
Is he saying that to us or
Yes.
to Pietro and Belvent?
To you.
Your Majesty Alora, here are your demands. And I know that that is what you wish. And now I ask you, and I let you know and remind you that my primary oath is to the living. What do you think is realistic?
Bellivant does not require a seat at this table. He has no claim to the throne. I will oversee Barrowain, and I will accept Pietro's terms as such. But I will not cede my throne, and I will not cede the crown.
Why, for now at least, is it too much to ask that you let him have Barrowain?
And where shall I stand, Captain Stormlight? My people are in the capital, living under Pietro's thumb, and the rest of
And
my
we all
citizenry are in Barrowain.
and we all will be in a grave if we don't figure out something.
Let the queen speak freely.
So there's the capital, and then there's Barrowain, and those are pretty much the two halves of Zelkir.
They're the two primary things. There's the occasional settlement otherwise, but those are the major settlements. I guess you didn't destroy Fort Frolic all the way, though it is small in comparison.
Hmm.
And there's
I
that one
understand.
destroyed city near the. And this is Jake talking. There's that one destroyed city near the place where we teleported underground to meet up with Bokelian.
That is true. That one was an undead city as well.
And how did Bellavant come to possess Barrowain again?
He's been the Lord of Barrowain for at least a decade.
I can't remember the history on that. Was that taken from the Queen? I don't remember that.
No.
No, that was like his family's, right? Like his dad was sort of Barrowin, so it came down to him
It
by
was
inheritance.
it was gifted to him when he turned back the enemy in a war as the general of Zelkir.
A fight that he should have died in.
And
That's
who was
that's
it, the
not
person that gifted that? So,
Bellevant actually, when the queen says this, he does speak. For years, Elora, you've sought to remove me from my place. It was only grudgingly you allowed me to take ownership of Barrowain and the eastern corner of Zelkir. I understand your lack of willingness, but you must understand that at this point, much as it pains me to say it, you are no longer queen of Zelkir. There is nothing but a remnant and a memory that you can lay claim to. Go ahead and roll a perception check, or a sense motive check.
Who? Everyone? Or just
Everyone.
Nice.
Can you roll for me?
Yeah, I can roll for you.
I have to do a regular one. I'm not talking.
okay, Bailiff, Smoothies.
Oh, my sense motive is garbage. Oh, it didn't go.
Okay, go ahead and get your roll, Prince. Just needing you. Okay, 1 second.
Prince always has the most funnily timed nat ones.
He's gonna do it. Get down, Mr. President.
Not only
I'm
is it a
I'm
one,
not gonna do anything with that one right now, just because it would be too much work. So for everybody except for Jasper and Prince, you can see anger beginning to form in the Queen's eyes. And you can also see that same panic and anger in Vokelian's eyes as his fists tighten on the top of the chair that the Queen sits in. You are no longer Queen of Zelkir, repeats Bellevant. And just a second. The Queen looks at Bellevant and manages to restrain herself despite the fire in her eyes. And she looks again to you, Gabriel and Calistan. This throne is mine by right.
By what right?
I have held it now for 3 decades. I took it at the time uniting a divided people. I will not be antagonized by those who once followed me.
Prince will speak up. Well, I was never your follower, and I think it's a bit strange that the truth is antagonizing to you. I don't think the truth has any sights on anyone.
Enough.
No, she needs to hear this because, and
She's heard it from a royal.
I get that, but what
We
I
are
think,
facilitators of this conversation, Prince.
but what I think isn't being said here is this is the very reason we're in this predicament in the first place. The
This is not
squabbling.
about incompetency. This is not about arguing. This is about that there is a dragon who has power over the fates of all the individuals in this land.
That's exactly what I was saying. The point that I was trying to make was that the dragon wants to destroy everything because of this squabbling. And the queen claims to have a right, but, and I'm not saying this as though I agree with it, I'm just saying it as a matter of fact, but might makes right. And currently, the mightiest thing is not the queen. So, my point is exactly what you just said, that I think that the lesson that the dragon was trying to teach, regardless of how crazy he has gone with it, is that all of these arguments about who deserves what and what land belongs to who are kind of pointless, especially if you don't have the power to back it up. He does have the power, and he is currently backing it up.
I think that it would be important to go over the logistics of what we can bring to the table of the conflict with the dragon. Things that can be used against the dragon could, in equal measure, be used against the other party. We do not want this peace talk to result in such a resolution, but I think it would be important to at least go over the logistics again before coming to any conclusion of what we will or will not agree to.
At the end of the day, we haven't exactly come here to negotiate peace and parcel up this land to each and every one of you. All we need is a temporary alliance. Otherwise, this entire continent is going to be wiped out. That is the major outstanding issue here. Now is not the time to look for an upper hand or to get something back. Because let's be honest, it's not going to happen. All of you need way too many things or too many differing opinions you have. We're never going to find a common ground here. And I think that we can all see that. But I think that what I do want you all to see is that there is going to be no ground left to get or give if we let this dragon follow through with his plan. I would just like to remind everybody of that, real quick. You're worrying about things as if this dragon doesn't exist, but it does. And as long as it exists, nothing else should matter to any of you.
Now, I have a question for Alora, Belvant, and Pietro. Do any of you even believe what we have told you about the dragon? Because I don't think any of you believe us right now. I want an answer from each and every one of you. Because I need to know if I need to prepare to fight this dragon on my own, and I swear on everything that is good in every plane, I will fight and die fighting that dragon by myself if need be. But I need to know if each and every one of you is ready to fight with us, if you believe us. I need an answer from every one of you.
Pietro looks at you, nods, and says, I stand convinced of what you've said. And he gives an appreciative look in your direction, Jasper, and of the points that you have raised. Bellivant, in like manner, gives his affirmative. But the Queen looks at you, Gabriel, and she says, I will die before I break bread and make peace with those who have taken from me my throne and who have attempted my life to be taken again and again.
Picture
You will...
for one moment, my queen, if you don't mind me saying, all of your people watching you here in this exact moment, they're seeing you, and that you're your pride means more to you than their lives. I think they would want to live. I don't think they would all be as martyrous to your cause of needing your kingdom back. And please, don't get me wrong. I understand what you've lost is immense. No one can understand what you've lost because of how immense it is.
Who,
But truthfully,
she
you have to
says,
see.
who do I have? Who do I command that you need my help, Lord Stormlight? There are none left. None but a few who follow me.
That may very well prove the difference. I assume those that remain are no common soldier, like my brother.
You have the love and the hope of those who have perhaps heard whispers of you yet being alive, that you've returned. You have their loyalty.
And what
Even if
would
not
you
all.
and what would you have me do, Jasper, when all of this is over? Where shall I stand? And what will I have?
Maybe you'll get really good at baking bread.
No, Hestia, Queen Lord, I would that you would have what people could call queen and country. I see you as a fair ruler. I do. I wish I had the answer. Obviously, for Bellivant and Pietro being in the position that they are, I think it's easiest for them to come to such a solution. I don't see you as being overtly unreasonable regarding your lot in these stakes. I do not. I want you to understand that. But you do have faithful followers who have been committed to you and your cause, who have the strength and courage of maintaining some semblance of a shadow rule in a post-apocalyptic scenario. Your men have strength beyond measure. The artifacts that you carry, they have power beyond measure to face the might of Zelakar. For that, I think that you are worthy of having queen and country, you being that queen. But I cannot negotiate the exact terms on your behalf. And what you currently ask for, the other parties are not in agreement with. We are here to facilitate a resolution, enough of a resolution that we can agree to face the dragon together. Because that is what is at stake. The lives of the people that you love, who have looked to you for 30 years for support, a loving, faithful queen. Their lives are at stake.
Malith will add, right now the survival of Zelkir is more critical than the throne of Zelkir.
And we can maybe convince Pietro and Bellivant to pay you accordingly. There are some fortresses, there are some cities that can be built upon. Perhaps Pietro would agree to let go of the physical throne in the capital so that the living capital may be relocated. I know it is not the most ideal, but I am trying to help here. I do see you as a brave queen, as someone that truly loves her people, her country. I am also a realist, and I know that divided we fall.
Gabriel and Malith, can you both give me a diplomacy check?
Gabriel's inventing parliamentary democracy.
Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da. Oh,
Actually, I think it's parliamentary monarchy. I think that's what it is. Where you still have a queen, but she's just there
Another
to give the
time,
little
another
top
time,
wave.
Kyle. The queen looks at you.
Speak.
No, that can be after game. We're short on time. The queen
Uh,
looks at you, Gabriel and Malith. If it will be done, then I will accept these terms. But I will be beholden to no one. My throne, or that which will remain of it, will be mine to do with as I will. But I will accept the terms put forward.
as is appropriate, as the queen. And we will look at Pietro and Velvet.
Pietro has a satisfied smirk on his face, and Bellivant has a resigned acceptance. And that is where we will end tonight.
Oh,
Yeah.
I wanted the queen.
no.
Why couldn't we kill the queen? I'm gonna be honest,
No!
if I were a melee fighter that could kill her quickly, I would have killed her partway through this conversation.
Okay, everybody, keep an eye on Kyle for next campaign.
I honestly
Yeah.
was sitting there
Yeah.
thinking the
He's going
whole
to be a
time
murderer.
that it'd be a lot simpler if someone did just.
Murk her.
hey, guys, I took a bullet for her. I almost died for her.
And you got some serious circumstantial bonuses because of that. On that
Yeah,
diplomacy check.
but
Here, I'm gonna end the stream here, and then we can chat a
okay.
little bit. Thank you to our viewers. We will see you next week at what may
We
well
killed
be
her.
the penultimate, or perhaps even the final episode of The Land of Death.